happy to be here, and I want to recognize the homeowners too, because you are blessed for all of these people helping you have a better life. But another thing we have learned, and you probably have to work enough out that the blessing is as much hours of work for you as it is yours. Thank you, and everybody, have a good time.
Well, I was particular, I just wanted to name the toilets after me, in a way. So now you'll be going to presidential toilets. So. Well, how many of you were here when we were here in '93? Anybody? Well, I don't see very many, so we'll admit it. But thank you very much. Good to have you here again. Well, I bring you greetings, first of all, from Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains, Georgia. That's where we worship, and where I teach Bible classes every day that I'm there. We have about 30 members at Maranatha, and we have about 250 to 850 visitors come to hear a politician teach the Bible. It's kind of a curiosity. So you're all welcome to come. Not the same Sunday, but you come sometimes you come to a way far or something like that. So I'm going to just give you a few words of devotional this morning, and I want to start by saying that when I got out of the Navy, I was in the submarine force for a long time. When I left the Navy and went back to Plains, I wanted to have a better life as a Christian, because I had been unable to go to church regularly since we moved around so much. The house we live in now was built in 1961. It was the 16th house in which Rose and I had lived since we got married. So you can see we moved from one place to another. I couldn't keep a regular job during this period. But I wanted to be a better Christian, so I became a deacon in the Plains Baptist Church, and I would visit people, 2 or 3 families every year to get them to accept Christ. And I was very proud of myself as a newly dedicated believer. And then one Sunday morning, the pastor there, his name was John Simpson, preached a sermon that resonated with me. The title, I don't remember the sermon itself, but the title of it was, "If you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you?" Think about that a minute. If you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? You could always talk you out of it, right? You say, well, I go to church regularly, but I do it to help my business, because I get a lot more customers since I'm known as a Christian. And we forget sometimes that the word Christian means, in effect, little Christ. If we had to say, I'm a little Christ, we would be much more reluctant to say it. But that's really what it means, and we are supposed to be, as Christians, a little version of Jesus Christ. Well, that sermon resonated with me, and I decided I'd do more as a Christian than I had done before. So I volunteered for the Southern Baptist Convention then, and I volunteered to be a lay missionary. And the first place that this convention sent me for about a week or 10 days at a time was to Rockhaven, Pennsylvania. And some Christians where Penn State University is in Pennsylvania, in the central part of the state, had got a watch line, and they had called everybody in the phone book in Rockhaven, Pennsylvania. And they had found 100 families who didn't go to any church. So another guy, his name was Pendleton from Texas, were assigned to go to Rockhaven and visit all 100 families and tell them about Christianity and see if they would become Christians also. So we went there, and we spent a little more than a week trying to convince people to go. And we visited each family, and we would pray before we went into the home, and sometimes the family members would reject us completely. I don't want anybody in my house that comes here on a religious purpose. Sometimes we would have better luck with them. And so by the time the time was over, we had visited all 100 families. About 48 of them had accepted Christ as Savior. And so we organized a little church in Middle Pennsylvania. The next year we went to Springfield, Massachusetts, and I was assigned to go with a Cuban American named Lloyd Cruz, who was the pastor of a little church in New York City, in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact. It had about 50 members. And he was probably the best Christian I've ever known. He was dedicated, and he would give the presentation to the people about the plan of salvation, how you become a Christian. But my assignment was to read the Bible in Spanish. This was not an easy thing for me. I had learned some Spanish when I was in the Navy, but the vocabulary in the Navy is different from it is when you talk about Christianity. But I did it as I could. But I was so impressed with Lloyd Cruz, and at the end of that time, he was very awed by me because I owned an automobile, and I had been a candidate for governor unsuccessfully, and I had been a state senator, so he thought I was really something. But I was impressed with his ability to reach the hearts of these people. And I asked him what was the secret to his success, and he was quite embarrassed that I would ask him such a thing. He finally said, well, that he didn't have much study of theology, but the rule that he went by was to love God and to love the person in front of you at any particular time, which I thought was a very profound expression of faith. Love God and love the people, the person in front of you at any particular time. That means somebody with whom you work every day, or somebody that you might be sitting beside in an airplane or a bus, or just a neighbor of yours, or somebody in your own family. So I learned a lot about Christianity during those brief times. And later I went to some other places that were transforming the neighborhood from mostly white people to mixed or African American citizens in Atlanta and other places. So that was a time that I changed. And I found out over my time as a Sunday school teacher that there were a good many things that I had not known about. First of all, I realized that God gives us all two things, basically. He gives us life, and He gives us freedom. And we have, that's where the trouble comes in. Because we have the right, as a human being, a free human being, to make our own decisions. So we can decide in each instance in our life, every time we make a decision of what we want to do. And what we really ask is to accept certain principles of life and how to live. All of us know do you remember what God promised Solomon when they found out that Solomon was going to take David's place as a king? Remember what God offered Solomon? Nobody remembers? Is anybody else think I'm a jerk? God, that's right. God promised Solomon a very wonderful thing. He said, anything that you ask for, I will give you. Isn't that a wonderful promise? How would you like to have a promise like that? Okay, let me tell you this. Everyone in here, including me, has that same offer from God. Each one of us can decide as we evolve into an adult what we want in life. Because each one of us has to decide what kind of person I want to be. So as we make the decisions that shape our lives, we decide what kind of person we want to be. Do we want to be selfish or generous? Do we want to believe in peace or conflict? Do we want to be a forgiving person or one that holds a grudge? Do we want to care for other people or not? And this is one of the things that I learned as a president. I was president of the United States, as some of you may remember. And when I was president, president, I dealt with big things. I had about 3 million people working for me as president of the United States, and I was commander-in-chief of the military forces, in which I had served for about 12 years. And I dealt with general things like peace and human rights, which was the main things that I worked on. And I tried to put into practice some of the moral and ethical principles of my life. But I didn't have a chance as president. I was kind of isolated. And so I didn't have a chance to get directly acquainted with people who were in need. And when I got home from the Navy, from the White House, the Habitat for Humanity headquarters was in my hometown county seat in Americus, Georgia. And Millard Fuller was the head of it then. He was the founder of Habitat. So eventually we volunteered to be Habitat members. And I found there that Habitat gave me the best opportunity that I had as a human being to break down the barriers between people like myself that had almost everything I had ever wanted and those who were in need of a decent home. And since I had believed in human rights as a president, I realized that having a decent home is a basic human right. And we have found out in Habitat, having built Habitat homes now for 36 years, 34 with the organized group in which you are participating, that the families that are in need are sometimes underestimated by those of us who have, you might say, everything in life. And we get to know those people and see how hard they work and see how worthy they are. And we've come to realize that Habitat families who we might have underestimated at the beginning because why didn't they have a decent home if they worked as hard as I did and so forth. But we found out that the Habitat families are just as hard-working as we are. They're just as ambitious as I am. They're just as dedicated to their life as we are. They have the family values the same as mine. In other words, Habitat is a sense of a mechanism by which we can equalize the relationship between us. And in the 14 foreign countries and 20 different places in the United States where we have worked as heads of this particular group, we've gotten to know the Habitat families with a great deal of respect. We've had some emotional times. I don't think I've ever handed out Bibles and the keys to the home at the end that Rose and I didn't become teary-eyed. I remember we went to the Philippines, which is our biggest project. This is the second biggest project, by the way, in 34 years, but the one in Philippines was a little bit larger. We had 14,000 volunteers who joined us there. 7,000 of them were foreigners, and about 7,000 were from the Philippines. And we built 293 homes, completed 293 homes in 5 days. They were small homes. They were small homes, they were only 30 square meters. I don't have to translate that for Canadians. It's about 300 square feet, which is about the same size as a normal American, I'd say, living room. And with the people were very deeply impressed. And I remember that the woman who was our homeowner family, she had 2 daughters. And she came and looked at the house the first morning, and she burst into tears instantly, just to see the framework of the house going up. And I asked her where she'd been living. She said, well, every night my daughters and I crawled into an abandoned septic tank. And we covered up with plastic to keep from raining on us. And that's where we've been sleeping every night. So you see how transformational having that house was. So that part of my life, Habitat, has expanded greatly. My ability I happen to be a Christian, to put my faith into practice. And I know that's not, no matter what your faith might be, that's one of the reasons that you are motivated to come to Habitat. So don't forget that everything we have in life is given to us by God. We're given adequate talents and ability to do anything we want to. And God lets us make a decision about what kind of person I'm going to be, which is the same promise that he made to upcoming King Solomon. So that gives a great responsibility to us, but also a great opportunity. And building Habitat homes, I think, is the best opportunity that we have as Canadians or Americans to put into practice whatever our moral and ethical value standards might be. Best wishes to you. Work hard today and the rest of this week, and I'll see you on site. Thanks very much.
Thank you, President Carter, for those inspirational words. Okay.